Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. Oh, I think we got a technical issue. Marky there?
Yeah, I'm here. Welcome to Steelers Touchdown Under. How are we going? Here they come. Here comes. Here, everyone's coming in right now. I think YouTube just glitched for a little bit.
Yeah, no, and I could hear myself through your microphone. But anyway, I'm going to say that again. Yeah. Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell, joined by my co-host, as always, Marky Davison. We'll have to cut that one on the audio podcast side of things. But for those on YouTube and Facebook, sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure you weren't going to hear double audio of me through Mark's microphone there. We're coming to you. Well, we're an hour earlier, but we should actually, I think we're like an hour difference for them, but we're definitely going half an hour earlier, our time zone, but we've just changed daylight saving. It's so trippy, Mark. The only thing that I can say is we don't have to wake up at 3 a.m. for the game tomorrow. It's 4 a.m. I love that. Does that mean
that means one hour better?
But you know, like what I always like to do, and everyone, I'm going to let everyone in on a little secret because we've got our BTSC family. We've got Clarence in the house. We've got Tyler. We've got Ryan O'Toole. Elijah Pritchard's in there as well from Aussie. Chad from Facebook. Dave Shipley, and Richard as well. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. So for me, Mark, unless some games, I like to sleep in a little bit. Like I give myself an extra hour. I like to do this. So I can fast forward through the ad breaks, can fast forward through halftime. And it just means that I get that extra hour sleep. Obviously, like it's hard with work on a Monday when you've got the games there. So for me, I'm really happy about this because, man, if the game doesn't start till 4, then I can wake up at 5. And some days I wake up at 5 anyway. So there's not much of a problem there for me. So excited by that move. But equally, Mark, how you been this week?
Yeah, good, man. The week just flies by, doesn't it? And to what you're saying too, in a few weeks' time, it goes from 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. So that's a game changer. I think it's about like week 7 or 9 or something when the Americans, you guys get the daylight savings or something happens.
Yeah.
So the 1 p.m. games are our 5 a.m. games, and they're not too bad. Like for anyone who isn't working, you can wake up at 5 a.m., turn the telly on, get some breakfast, and watch your Steelers. This week's game versus the Packers is 7 a.m. for us, so 7:30. So that isn't too bad, but I'm doing pretty well. With the BTSC has covered a lot of things about the Steelers this week, and we played poorly, and we'll go through it. We played really poor. We didn't show up like we haven't been. This feels like the last 8 or 9 games we've been playing as Steelers. Big Ben isn't the same. The O-line is new. It's different. We need to run this football. What tangent do you want to go on? Like, we're 30 seconds. My big question, and I don't know if you had this one, but why are we only just running Najee? Why aren't we running other backs? That's one thing that I want to try and figure out too.
Whoa. Yeah, let's kick it off there. Before we do, I just wanted to bring up the players that will be out. We've got some breaking news on that, and Ryan O'Toole said it here as well. We saw it just before we went live on air. Claypool's out of this week's game, so that's going to put some challenges there for Juju. If he can show up healthy after last week, obviously he's available, but he went out injured in that game. Deontay being back and being a favorite for Big Ben. You've got James Washington there as well. Obviously, Ray's had a few more targets than what you might have thought at different points as well. In terms of that, also Carlos Davis is still out with the knee injury at defensive tackle position. You've got Shooks out, which I think, if you're like me, you don't want to see him concussed. You don't want to see him unhealthy. But at the same time, he's not doing the job. So see you later, alligator, as we say down under. Well, not that we have alligators. We got crocodiles, but it is what it is. Never smile at a crocodile. We say that one. And then I think the other player that's out is Rashad Coward, which is actually a bit of a loss because he's versatile. Can play in the guard position, can play a bit of tackle if need be. So, there's a few guys there that are out. But yeah, let's crack into last week's game, Mark. You bring up an interesting point there around Najee and them not running on the backs. I think we've talked about on this podcast and we've talked about it elsewhere too. Like Benny Snell ain't doing the job. I think Anthony McFarland missing, and I asked the question of Jeff a while back and he covered it on Let's Ride, but I wonder what problems that's left the Steelers' running game and their plans of the offense and Matt Canada's offense. So I wonder what problems that's created. But equally, like, I know we saw stuff from Kalen Ballage, but I don't think the answer lies in the backs. I think the answer lies in what the offensive tackles and the guards are doing, what that O-line is doing. We've talked so much about that the last few weeks. And if Najee is getting stuck in the backfield and having to make 4 people miss to get any gains from a yardage perspective, those guys are going to go back toward their own end zone. So I think it sort of answers the question from the offensive line side of things. I mean, do you trust any of those other backs to do anything if Najee's struggling to get a gain?
Well, this is my point. I don't know. We all don't know. Why aren't they playing? Why not play Ballage for half a series and just give him a run? They haven't given the guy a run yet. How can you just put everything on Najee? Najee's playing his heart out. Yes, we aren't moving this line forward. Ant Mac is not. He's injured. Snell can't do anything. We know what Snell's doing. He can't do anything. But we saw promise in what Ballage was doing. So even I don't want Ballage to come into week 7, week 6, or whatever it is, or in a few weeks more time, and he's not ready either. Shouldn't we be feeding this guy the ball too to get him involved in the system, in the idea of what we're doing with this offense? That's all I'm saying. Like you might as well put him in there too if Najee's not, Najee's only running about 14 times, but he's catching the ball about 100 times. I'm just saying, like, with this offensive line, we've seen 2-back sets before. You got to bring him in somehow. Like, make Najee 70% and bring in a Ballage or Ant Mac when he's not injured for the other 30% and change a pace. They could surprise us. That's what I'm saying. Like, I just find it funny that we're not using these. I'm not a coach, but we're not using these players in the roles they're meant to be in.
But I don't know. I just feel like they're going to get tackled for a massive loss, and Big Ben can't throw them out of that. That's the other thing, is that the Big Ben doesn't have time to, his intermediate passing game. Michael Beck brought it up, and it's funny. I think it's been thought a lot potentially by other people, but he's so right. If you look at the intermediate or the medium, depending on what terminology you want to use, passing game, that's just not even there from Big Ben, and it hasn't been for ages. It hasn't been and if you go back to the game against the Patriots where they got thrashed in the start of 2019, it was missing in that game, and it was so apparent because Brady was doing it, and it was just dead obvious, right? And I think it's something that Mason actually does fairly well at times. I think it's the short passing game that, strangely for me, I feel more unstable with that. But you'd think with the tight ends that we've got, that Ben would be able to do these things. But it goes back to this O-line. This O-line is just, I just don't know. I don't know where to begin with it, right? Like, there's potential there. I know there's problems with that word. Jeff Hartman doesn't like that word, potential. I just don't trust it, right? I just like the fact that the Steelers have not scored in the first quarter. He was on Dave's show. It was like a couple of seasons now. Like, we haven't scored a point in the first half or something since week 10 last year. Like, this is just getting ridiculous.
I've got a question for you though, Matty. Okay, so I've been thinking about this all week. Now, with our offense, and we're not using those intermediate passes, over the sticks. We're not going in the middle of the field. This is really hard to say, but are the Steelers receivers just running their routes like normal and not doing any extra around that? Like, when the play breaks down, they just stand there, or they're just like, oh, I finished my route, I better clock off. They're not, there is no urgency to get back to the football. I found the old days of Hines Ward. There's a few plays where I see, one play can we get rid of? I hate it. I hate it so much. That screen where the receiver like Juju or Claypool, and they're on the outside just standing there. They run the route and stand there and just wait. They wait there until they get the football. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, and it's not quite a curl flat either. Like, it's just, I know what you mean. It's I don't.
It works. It does work, and it gets you 4 or 5 yards sometimes. But then you're still wasting that play, and you might use that so then you fake to go to a deeper receiver. But I can't stand it. You just run that route, and if they're open or not, it doesn't matter. They're gonna get shut down so fast. I just get over those kind of routes.
Yeah, it's Yeah. It makes you question things, put it that way, right? Like, and it was interesting. I always like to listen to Move the Sticks. It's the only podcast I'll endorse outside of BTSC, but with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, and obviously you can find them on NFL Network and what have you. They were talking about that this week, and they brought up this when they were talking about the Steelers, and they were talking about, and people are going to hate me saying this, but you think about the wide receivers with the Bengals, like T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, like Tyler Boyd's touchdown too. That was like a veteran move, but athletic. The way he cut in and then dived between the two secondary players to get the touchdown.
Was that the missed tackle where there were three
guys?
Yeah,
it was soft as.
Man.
But good on him for cutting on that angle, right? Good on him for cutting on that angle. And we talk about angles a lot in the rugby sports here, and the way that you run certain lines. But you look at, let's say, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. You look at some of the other wide receiver groupings around the league. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't trade. I love the trio or the quads, that we've got, the quartet that we've got. But the thing that they pointed out is it's not necessarily saying the players are slow, but they lack the speed isn't obvious. And what I mean by that is you don't see, unless they get a head start or it's Claypool, and it doesn't happen every time, they're not miles away from the secondary. You don't see the Steelers players completely run away from the secondary, right? Now, that's either because Big Ben is getting it out so quickly they can't even create that separation time, but also, like, we're not throwing the right routes. We're not setting them up to do it. And that's the question I have, is that you don't sit there, I don't want to compare the real game to Madden, but you sit there on a Madden, right? If someone's got like a 95 speed, you're sitting there going, crap, how am I gonna cover this guy? There's no one from the Steelers that you sit there like a Tyreek Hill and you go, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna cover that guy. Like, yes, Deontay in space. Yes, Najee in space works. Yes, Claypool, will go up there in the air and catch it. But there's no one sitting there that you're like, oh man, that guy's gonna burn me, like Martavius Bryant.
Exactly.
Right? Like AB. And so this is what I meant. Like, I agree with you here in what are the wide receivers doing to get open? I guess it goes back to there's no one in that team right now, apart from Najee, and at the running back position, it's hard anyway because you can stack the box. I doubt there's anyone that from our offensive side of the football that another team is sitting there going, oh man, I'm worried about that. I'm going to have to double cover that guy. Right? Now, I'm not saying that we're going to rock up on the weekend. The Packers aren't going to double cover people. They will, right? They will double cover Juju at times. They will do that to DJ. If Claypool was playing, they'd do it to him. But what I'm saying is there's no one that week in, week out right now on this Steelers offense that the other team is sitting there going, oh man, this is a headache for us. This is going to keep me up at night. And the problem is that that's not going to, if Big Ben doesn't start playing better, right? And if the offensive line doesn't start giving him time, that ain't going to change. And where that doesn't change, we got problems here because we need the other teams second guessing themselves. Right now, I think teams are going, yeah, can't wait to play the Steelers.
Exactly, yeah.
Defense going to feast.
We haven't got, the guys like I watched last night. I know we do have a super chat to get to soon from Dave. But I watched last night the Steelers versus Packers 2017, where we won with the field goal. And it was that absolutely amazing catch. My favorite catch of AB ever was on the sidelines versus Green Bay, Tony Totap, where he was the only one to get that. Even the announcer thought he wasn't going to get it. We haven't got the guys. Like, yes, we have talented receivers. We really do. They're really talented, but they're not. I don't think they're going above and beyond what they should be doing because when the play breaks down, I just don't see someone working back to the football, going across the middle, moving around to help Ben out. And Ben has always been that guy throughout his career. When it breaks down, he makes plays. And he hasn't got time, one. And two, the receivers aren't, if they run their route and it's not open, I see in some aspect, I see them giving up. In that aspect, I do see them giving up on the route. And even in plays where they're blocking, I see them giving up. And you just can't do that. I don't want to see anyone
give up. I don't want to see anyone give up. I want the attitude. You run back to the ball, and the problem is, and I'm not saying necessarily it's time for Big Ben to go, right? He's got to start playing better or we're getting there. I don't see another season after this one. But the problem that we've got with this O-line and Ben, right? And this might seem really obvious, but the fact that they're not giving him the space and the time means that if he's throwing this out because obviously he doesn't want to get hit. But if you look at the young quarterbacks around the league, and Mason and Dwayne Haskins aren't going to do this very well. They're not the answer. But they move around in the pocket and they create the time. So the wide receiver can shift wherever they are. The wide receiver can, or whoever the person is that's going to receive the football, can move around and create space and look at the opportunities and, move off their route, whatever it may be. You just don't see that from the Steelers, like, offense. Like, if they're not open, Big Ben looks to throw something short or throw it out, or, they try to make a silly catch that they're not going to make. And then sometimes that results in an interception. There's no extension of the play through the.
That's what I'm saying.
Down in the, frustrates me, man.
Frustrates everyone.
Like, and I heard one of the other BTSC podcasts this week had a comment and a question from someone that, it basically said, I've seen the Steelers, it might have been 2 weeks ago. The Steelers, have struck when the Steelers play offense, it's a struggle to watch them play. You're never confident that they're going to score points. You're never going to confident that they're going to extend a drive. And I feel like it's been that way for like 5 seasons. And then you watch other teams and some of the worst teams in the league, and they move the ball around, and you're like, how is this the case? And
Trevor,
I have to agree. And I just want to say, like, we're a fan podcast. Like, at the end of the day, we're not the NFL media. We're a fan podcast. As a fan, and I know that people in the live chat feel the same. It is infuriating. It's so frustrating.
Like, well, Trevor Lawrence for the Jags, he was moving the football quite well against the Bengals.
Exactly.
Very, very well. We got a super chat. I
was going to say, I've been hovering over that super chat for a while. We should probably take a pause and
you've got one from Davo.
Yeah, so Dave Shipley puts $5 in. He's been contributing right through the live chat, as of a couple of people here, but he's got a new phone, which I think he's having a bit of a struggle with. He said, everyone hit what's up, go Steelers. Actually, that's something we don't say too often. We don't give ourselves that plug, but if everyone could hit like, it does really help us. It helps promote this podcast to your fellow future BTSC family members, hopefully, but your fellow Steelers fans as well. So do give us a like if you do like the show, or give us a comment if you think we need to improve something or what have you as well. We're not like Randy Fiechner. We're open to feedback and improvement. But there, and I think Dave Shipley, you mentioned you lost a friend later on in the live chat. So our condolences to you there on that one, and best wishes. Awesome. And then Dave Shipley says, "Is separation our problem again?"
I think so.
I don't know if it's but the problem with the separation is, as I said before, you've got to have the time to do the separation, right? If Big Ben's throwing the ball in 2.5 seconds, right? Well, okay, most of these guys that are playing wide receiver for us can run a 40 when they were drafted in, like, let's just say on average, a 40 in 4.5 seconds. At 2.5 seconds, you've only gone 20 yards. Is that enough time to get separation from a decent amount of the cornerbacks in the NFL or safeties? Maybe not, depending on the distance in which they started opposite you, or whether they're playing press coverage or whatever it is, right? The problem is that Big Ben's got no time. Wide receivers don't have time to make separation or to run their route and to get open. And that's the problem.
Yeah, and I think even someone, it might have been Dave too, said, it might have been CW, Clarence said, Deontay is the only one who does the good route running skills. And that's very true as well. We didn't have Deontay last game too. And I said this year was going to be a big year for DJ. And I think he needs to be the guy. I really do. Okay, we have all their star receivers. I think DJ is that guy. DJ is a Heinz Ward. DJ is that AB. DJ is that guy who, when things go bad, go to DJ. On the slant, on the comeback route, whatever. Just get the ball to him. He's got to be our Tyreek Hill or, Stephon Diggs. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has to be someone like that. Like, we don't have that. Like, this is, like, it is so funny that for years, from 2016, 2017, we had one of the greatest offenses that you could even, could imagine. And now we have such a stale offense, but a really good defense still. And we just can't move that football. I've been saying it for yonks. We can't move the ball. Why? Why can't we score or move that football and get 7 points? Why do we have to always be down? We're always down, like, we're down. Well, Big Ben, we're going to come back and we're going to win it. No. Go out there. Imagine that you're down by 50 and then beat them by 51. Like, what is going on? Like when we turn the game on, I want them to win. I really do on tomorrow's game, right? But I want them like just to put 7 points on the board. Can you do it? Like we haven't seen that. It just doesn't happen.
Well, see, this is the weird. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question here. This is totally off the cuff, but like, you kind of got to wonder whether Big Ben wants to be like a hero. And I'm not having a crack, but like honestly, do you have to come back from all these? It's exactly what you said, Mark. Do you have to come back from a deficit all the time? Can't you go in there and blow them out of the water? Like, and like it goes back to the one that we've talked about before as well with Tomlin, right? Where they, 6-7 minutes to go in a game, they're up by a certain amount. They just basically kneel it, do short yard runs and what have you. No, I want to see this team put someone to the sword, right? Like, where's that mentality? Like, rack up the points. Rack up the points because it's the mental thing, right? I don't care about the gentleman, like, oh, you get up by a certain amount, you don't keep going, right? Fine. Replace some players, give some guys, your top players, a rest a little bit, fine. But go for the jugular. Like, make a statement to the rest of the league. Put things on tape that the people the next week or the week after have to consider when they're scheming and planning for you. It's
like the Steelers want to be the savior. Like every week that we have, like, okay, we're down by 14, 10 points. We're going to come back and win. Can we not come back and win? Can we just start to put the offense together, the running game together, the O-line together? That Big Ben is going to start from 7 for 10 for 100 yards, 1 TD from the first down, get the defense on board. We are playing behind ourselves every single game, and it has been a current theme the last 4 or 5 years. Because when we had AB, and he wanted to win, like he was selfish and he had a big ego, but he wanted to win and be great. So it didn't matter what time he scored; he always wanted to score. But it feels like the Big Ben's like, oh, like if we're in the fourth quarter and it's 13-10, we have a chance. Don't make it like that. Don't. Let's make it 21. Like the Bills, man, the other week. The Bills beat the Dolphins 35-0. There are big scores going all around the league, and we haven't seen that in such a long time. When was it? There was 1 year we versed the Panthers on Thursday night. I think it was a few years ago, and we smashed them. We smashed them like 45 to something to
2018, wasn't it?
So it's a culture thing. It's a mentality thing. Like when I used to play sport and tennis, I'd be like, oh, I've got this guy. I'm going to beat him. And he'd end up being 3 sets in front of me. I mean, 3 or 4 games. And I'm like, no, I've still got it. And then I would lose. I would lose 6-2. And I go, holy dooly, where'd that come from? So if they think they're going to beat these teams like the Bengals and the Raiders, we have this, we can win. And they start to lose, then you're behind. You're so far behind.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I worry about the way they come out of the blocks, come out of the gate, whatever analogy you want to do. Like it's just slow. Like it doesn't.
So slow.
You can't do this. Is professional football. Like you have to come out of the gate strong. But I wanted to, before we go into our Iron Heart Awards, I wanted to bring up Ryan O'Toole's comment here, and I'm going to ask you a question, Mark. Ryan O'Toole says, "I thought beating the Bills was a statement game, but since then." So I'm going to ask you two. I'm going to give you. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Pick. This is like choose your own adventure, right? We can go down the path that says the only reason they won that game was the special teams, and obviously it was. But they relied on that special teams play to win the game. They were never going to win the game if that didn't happen. Or you can pick the path of the Steelers. Themselves wanted to see what they could prove. They beat the Bills, and then they've gone, okay, all right. And the rookie was on the O-line and gone, okay, cool. This isn't as necessarily as crazy as I thought it would be. We'll be right. And then they're not putting in the required amount of concentration, effort, training, focus on the development to get better, which is what they need to do. And in fact, they might have got the Bills, as they were warming up themselves into the season. So I'd love to hear where you think things lie.
They're playing. The reason they won that game was because their backs were against the wall and everyone counted them out. That's what they've always played like. Now they have a chance to win this Packers game because they don't think anyone can win. And we always play our games really tough and we beat the good opponent somehow. But they've also got to go into their psyche and say, you know what? Everyone hates us and we can't win. Like, because they relaxed against the Raiders and they're a good quality side. And they relaxed too much against the Bengals. And the Bengals, to me, I hate them so much, but the Bengals are an angry young side. Like they're angry. They want to show the NFL who they are. And the Steelers, they can come out and win this game this week, but it's only because their back's against the wall. It's not because they're a great team yet.
Yeah, and this is the thing, because like I sit there and I'm like, I still believe in Kendrick Green. I still believe in Kevin Dotson. I do believe Dan Moore can adjust, and he's a 4th round draft pick as well. Like he will get better. I don't believe in Chooks, okay? But I actually think we're at a massive advantage that he's not playing this game. Massive advantage. Like, it's huge, right? But I don't know whether Trey Turner can come back. But the guys need to take each week, and it's got to build. It can't step back. Mm-hmm. It's got to get better. It's got to improve. And what I find interesting, too, is with the penalties, right? People in the live chat are saying the penalties killed us. And a particular other Pittsburgh Steeler-focused podcast from another platform that I like to rip on, and I'm not going to rip on it publicly because that's not fair. But, we talked about that this week, and they were going on and on and on about the penalties, and it showed up on our Twitter feeds. You got to expect that from these guys, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm happy for a holding penalty, right? I don't mind the odd holding penalty or false start if you're giving Big Ben 3 to 4 seconds to throw the football half the time, so he can get you out of the mess. The fact is, you give Big Ben 2.5 seconds, 2.8 seconds max. He can't throw you the way out of that. And also, Big Ben, I'm not saying any, people in live shows that things like, Big Ben, with that, isn't the problem, But Big Ben isn't playing well. I'm not saying he needs to go. I'm just saying he's not playing well. So something's got to give here. Like, something has to change. So anyway, but look, I think it's time. We're almost fully way through part 1, and we want to get into previewing more of the Packers side of things. As everyone knows on this show, we sort of come in this interesting point a couple of days before the game or the day before the game, and then we like to look back on the previous week. We bring a global perspective to everything that's happened in the week. But Mark, Iron Heart Awards, I think everyone else has dropped out from BTSC, but you and me. But it was our idea first. That's all right. We don't care. Right. We'll keep going with it. I'll hand it over to you, mate, because this is your
idea. So what we'll do, pretty much, just me and Matty doing these Iron Heart Awards, and we'll try and fit this into part 1. We'll do it really quickly because we have talked about the game, so we'll just go through it really quickly. My 3 points this week, and you guys can play at home or in the live chat. Who was the best player? My 3 points was Najee. Najee was outstanding. He's the only guy on this team he's showing true heart, true steel. Can't say enough about the guy. He gets my 3 points. Who would be your 3 points?
I had Najee as well. You can't go past Najee Harris, right? So that's a consensus there for the 3 points. Best player on the field. I mean, what he did across the board, what he's doing that's not showing up on stats. And can I just say as well, like, some people might know this, some people don't, depending on if they listen to War Room. It's where I've mentioned it more. But I work on the media side of things. I work on the business side of things, helping the company that I work for, get into the media and be top spokespeople and what have you. Man, I love the way Najee does those press conferences, and like it's been talked about by Jeff Hartman and stuff like that. But like Najee's got this way where sometimes you just sit there and like. You just like, are you having them on, or are you truly just like, you just don't care? Like, some of the stuff he says is just so good.
Well, I think it's the questions, Matty. Like, I think the questions are pretty much like this. Hey, Najee, will you catch the ball at the 20-yard line in week 11? What do you mean?
The questions are ridiculous, mate. Like, I've got a journalism degree, right? You don't need a degree. I'm not saying you need a degree, right? Like, in journalism was something that for a long time you just did a cadetship and it was fine. But man, these questions sound like 101 journalism. It's just, and also the other thing that I don't understand with these questions, and this is from almost all the Pittsburgh Steelers media, like all the Pittsburgh media, that you want to ask an open-ended question to get an open-ended answer. They ask these definitive questions to get yes or no, and then they wonder why that like Tomlin can get away with everything that he says, and you wonder why that like the players don't give that many insights unless they're super fired up. Like Cam Hayward always goes above and beyond. But some of them just must sit there and go, these guys are idiots. right?
Yeah,
And also the
super
other thing
funny.
about these players is even if they've not got their degrees, and most of the Steelers players I think actually do have finished their qualifications, you've got players that are college educated, right? They sit there on the other end from these media and must be going, you are fools. Like, these are
Yeah.
dumb questions. And you know what? Like secondary media like us get questioned all the time. Well, primary media, get it together to help us out on the secondary side. You're like the O-line letting us down.
Well, Najee's just calling them out, and it's just really funny. Like this, he's just so honest and brutal with them, and it's really good to see. Heading into our number 2, just quickly. So
Yeah.
I've got Pat Frymouth.
Interesting.
He got the touchdown. He's playing really good in this team too. Another guy that's really trying. That gave me like a massage on my earphones there. Wow, that was really scary. It really thrown me off. So 2 points goes to Paddy because he's trying and he's getting the TDs. Who would be your number 2?
Mine's easily Terrell Edmonds there because he got me my punt of the week last week. I told you the safeties would step up. He had a fantastic game against Cincinnati. He had the interception, had a bunch of tackles. He looked good. He looked strong. I actually think Terrell Edmonds is going to be a surprise going forward in this defense. I said it last week. I feel, we'll get to Minka. I've given him an award as well in these Ironheart Awards. But I feel that Minka is really stepping up and no one's throwing his way, and he's this roadblock and he's this obstacle for opposing quarterbacks. They don't want to go near him, right? But that means that Terrell Edmonds is going to see a bit more action from the ball coming around him and near his way, and obviously where he plays close to the box and what have you. And yeah, I think he's going to be a real bright spot, particularly down the stretch when you think about the teams we're going to be playing in the last 6 weeks of the season. But yeah, I know we've got to crack through this part. So yeah, it's Terrell Edmonds for me, 2 points.
Well, mine's the same. So I had my number 1 point was for Terrell. And the reason that I chose these fellas was just because they're the only real bright spots, like you said, on the team this week. I couldn't find anyone really else that was had any impact on the game. So Terrell for me gets 1 point for that interception. Who would be your number 1?
I got to give it to Chase Claypool, man. Like 96 yards, that he made the difference there. I don't necessarily think there was anything that was just, oh my God, wow about the performance. But, when Juju's out, midway through that game, you've got Deontay out. Someone had to step up, and I thought he did that. I think he only caught 60% of his passes. I think he had 9 from like 14 receptions or something. But at the same time, that's not the worst catch rate. And it's also where was Big Ben putting the football. And we know Big Ben was off, like that interception he threw. Yeah, anyway, we're not going to go there. So yeah, for me, Chase Claypool.
Okay, so that brings a total. So it's only me and Matty doing it now. And the leaders are first, Hayward on 13, TJ Watt on 12, and Harris now on 9. So 3 key blokes that need to... we need them to do some stuff because they're our only hope at the moment. Some of these guys are really like, if TJ comes out, Harris comes out, we have a good time. Heading now into the Manly Award, I want to say just quickly, my Manly Award this week is Najee again. I love his heart. I just love the way he's playing. Give that guy a bit of time behind the O-line, and I think we have a real good running back with him. It can't be all on Najee, but he's my guy that stepping up in this game or in this team. Who's your Manly Award this week?
Yeah, so I just want to say, if you're new to the show and listening as well, the Manly Award is something that comes from like our Manly Seagulls locally. And we basically, this award is also, around a player that steps up and does something in a game that you might not award points to, but it shows the heart of the Pittsburgh Steelers, or it's a big impact play or what have you there. So mine's Minka, right? Now, it goes to what I just said before, but Minka is not being, sometimes when you have a star player, they want to, hold the limelight. They want to have the stat lines. They want to be put in a position to make plays. Minka just goes about his business. Joe Burrow threw once his way last week, right? Players are throwing like 2 or 3 times max to Minka each week, and he just goes about his business and he's quiet, and it's not going to show up on the stat sheet. But it kind of does, because it sits there behind every other stat, because it's nowhere near Minka, and it helps the Steelers defense plan and scheme each week, because they know they can create opportunities to make plays by knowing that the other team's not going to be throwing it Minka's way. So yeah, I think Minka gets the Manly Award this week for putting the team first. And it's something that I might give him later on in the season again, because he really is putting the team first.
What about, we're almost done with our awards here. What about the coach of the week?
That's Kyle Dunbar, right? Now, I say that. Now, Joe Mixon's still got 90 yards rushing, but Joe Mixon's a top running back. In other teams, he would be one of the top 3 in the league, from a stat line perspective. They held him to under 100 yards with Tuitt out. Davison in the depth side of things. Aluwalu's injured as well for most of the year, if not the year. I thought to hold Joe Mixon in that game to under 100 yards, big effort from Kyle Dunbar and the coaching on the D-line.
Mine's Eddie Faulkner. He's the running back coach, right?
Yeah.
It's him for putting up with the O-line. He's got to talk to his O-line and say, mate, help us out. I've got Najee here, a great star. Help me out. So that's my guy this week. And I think we're in agreement here. You can end it on this and then we can start to wrap it up. Who is the dunce of the week?
Oh, it's the Dante Moncrief Dunce of the Week award for the worst performance. Beats a dud of the week. But Big Ben, that interception,
I agree.
Not on. All right, with that wraps up part 1 of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell, joined by my co-host, as always, Marky Davison. Join us for part 2. We're going to talk all things Green Bay Packers, audience Q&A, punts of the week, and more. If you're listening live to us now, just hold on for a couple of seconds, and we'll be right back. Mark's just stepped out. He'll be 1 second. Then we're back on Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell, joined by my co-host, as always, Marky Davison. Mark, we didn't get to us slinging the slang. So
no.
Just as we like to say, just as Big Ben likes to sling the rock, we like to sling the slang. What Aussie word, Aussie culture reference, what have you got for the listeners this week?
Bloomin' hell. Bloomin' hell is how I feel. That's more of a UK thing, though, too. But bloomin' hell. Bloomin' heck. Bloomin'. What's going on? What are we doing? We're 1 and 2. I'm just a bit frustrated with this team, and I want to cheer them on so badly. But this week is just, it's almost a swear word, but it's not a swear word kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Bloomin' hell. Let's get this together. What's yours?
Mine is Mark, and I'm laughing because I use it as the pump up song for Mark and I this week. Sometimes we have a pump up song before we go on. We just play a little bit of the song. There's a song by an Australian artist, Jimmy Barnes, 1985, called Working Class Man, right? So, I couldn't come up with a slang word this week, but I invite you to go check it out. I know it's the vintage of some of our listeners, on the audio side, or that listen live to us on Facebook and YouTube. But there's, it's a classic song, even if you're, on the younger side of 30, what have you, it'll sound like some of the songs that your parents have listened to and what have you, but that you remember from growing up. Classic song. But there's a paragraph in it that says, well, he's a Steel Town discipline. He's a legend of his kind. He's running like a cyclone across the wild Midwestern sky. He's a working class man. And I don't know. I just feel like it's a Pittsburgh song.
Yeah,
that's it. It's Steel Town discipline. It's working class, coming like a cyclone with TJ Watt. And I don't know. It just got me feeling it this weekend as this Australian long weekend. And so I invite you all to go find that out on YouTube after you finished the show and finished listening to our show this week. But we got a super chat here from Dave Shipley.
I've been looking at it for the last 10 minutes. Like I didn't want to lose it. So Dave Shipley's got another one up there. Yeah,
let me pull it up. I support you guys.
My bad.
Oh, is there another one? I'll pull out the other one. Yeah. Anyway, Dave Shipley says, thank you all for all the money in the tip jar this week. He's like, I support you guys. It's one of my favorite podcasts besides Bad. And Saturday morning at noon Eastern time. Miss my Saturdays and Sundays with Bad and Mr. T. And then where was the other one? Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, I've got this last one. He's there we go. No, I don't know what that means. Does he just mean that Tuitt's still out? We're missing Tuitt and Washington football team? Like, what does that mean?
What, the foot?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, is he just saying we are missing Tuitt here? So Dave Shipley gives another $2 and says Tuitt ? And WTF.
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't mean to park the speculation onto it. I wonder whether this is more than just that knee injury. But you can't put yourself in his head after what he's gone through, right? So I just hope he comes back soon. But it does need to come back. We've got a certain amount of cap that's invested, in that position, and I just hope it's sooner rather than later. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. All right, let's move into the Packers this week, Mark. So, when it comes to the Packers this week, what are you looking for from the Steelers to be able to show up and to get the win? I know you're not predicting the win.
Oh, I was just gonna say a win, but then you added a bit more to it. Sorry. Continue your question. I'm sorry.
This time zone of moving an hour ahead's got us this week. What I mean by though is that what do the Steelers have to do to get a win against the Packers this week? Even though I know you're predicting a loss.
I am predicting a loss in the article, and you guys will see that when it comes out before the game. But I've been saying it for yonks now and for ages. Be competitive. Why can't we be competitive? You're playing this game for a reason. You're playing it for your family, for money, for your community. You're playing it for yourself. You're on that field, and there's only 53 people who can play it. You got to come together as a team, come together as a unit, and you have to play competitively. If you don't play competitively and you don't have the aspiration to win, then you're going to lose, and you're going to lose by a lot. And you will get injuries, like we said. If you don't play 100%, injuries happen. If you don't protect Big Ben behind this O-line, if you don't, it's all great, with the offensive line picking him up. But the best way to not allow that discussion, don't let him fall down. Don't let him get hit. Like all week, we're saying, well, they didn't pick up Big Ben. I would rather not them pick him up at all because they're not letting the defense get to him. They really have to work together. It's a new offensive line. It really is. It's a hard task for these guys. But if you go out there and play competitively and think back to your college days, to your high school days, think back to the fundamentals of football. On that tackle that Boyd got away from 3 Steelers, that can't happen in the NFL. That is Lions kind of stuff. That is old Bengals kind of stuff. That is not competing to the football and saying, oh, somebody else is going to get him. You need someone to step up. And in their mentality, everyone has their own mind and say, I need to step up. And when that happens, Ingram will make plays. Highsmith is coming back. He'll make plays. Cam Hayward is a leader in that locker room. Things need to develop in a way where, they talk about there's so much, I understand as a Steel fan, it's so frustrating now because there's so much talk about what we're going to do and it never happens. So much promise and it never happens. So what I expect from this team is to come out and run the ball and get 6 yards. Let's get 2nd and 4 and play off that. Do something a bit crazy and maybe do an end round to DJ or a screen and then get things moving the ball forward a little bit better. It's just, I really don't know with this offense. And this defense can't hang in there all the time. I'm not giving up. I will never give up. Even if they're 1-5, we still have a chance, What's that movie from Dumb and Dumber? When he asked that girl out and he's saying, what are my chances with you and I, being together? And she's like, 1 in a million. He's like, so you tell me I have a chance. We have a chance, but you got to play competitively. That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? You have to play competitively. Otherwise, it's hard for us to put on the jersey and wake up at 4 a.m.
100%. And I said something similar in War Room this week. We do wake up that early to watch a team win. We do watch that team to, if they're not going to win, play with passion, put in the, complete effort, go out there to win the game from the opening kickoff, not the second half. And before I get into it here, I just want to bring up Shield puts $5 in the chip jar. Thanks very much, Shield91. He says, Steel Town by Steve Mokler is a great song about Pittsburgh. Cheers, mates. Okay, cool. I'll have to check that one out. But what you said there, I heard from Matt Kennedy this week, we got to get back to the fundamentals. Are you for real, mate? You're a professional football team. The fundamentals should be a given. You're not paid millions of dollars a year to not do the fundamentals. Do the fundamentals. Now, appreciate in context what he was saying is probably we shouldn't go try and do all the cute stuff and make it too complex and get back to the basics. But The basics are the O-line needs to push forward and create running lanes and protect Big Ben, or none of it happens. So if you're not going to do it, if the kitchen's too hot, get out of the kitchen. That's all I got to say about it. Like it just, from my side of things, when it comes to the defense, is if you're going to get Watt back this week, you're going to get Highsmith back this week, right? They need to step up. They really do need to step up with Tuitt out. They need to help Cam Hayward out there on the defensive line with no Alualu. They got to shut down the run. They got to get back to that solid run defense they've had over the last couple of seasons. And the secondary has got to learn how to capitalize off this, right? And, I actually thought Schobert didn't play, awfully last week. I know there was some tape that suggested he was terrible. I didn't think he was the worst player on the field by any stretch. But Devin Bush needs to step up this game. Devin Bush, I feel, is a real key in this game, particularly because when you look at the Packers, Aaron Jones is out for this game, I'm pretty sure. I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling from wide receiver is out. A.J. Dillon might be out too as well. They've got another back that could be out. They're going to be passing the football. They're going to be relying on their tight ends, and they've got a couple of tight ends that can make plays there as well. They've got a big body wide receiver in Alan Lazard. They need to do something here, and Devin Bush needs to step up and make this difference. So for me, as I say, the secondary and the middle linebackers have to capitalize on what the defensive line and what the outside linebackers and edge rushers are setting up for them. If they don't do that, we've got no chance in this game because the offense doesn't have 20, 25 points in them. They got to hold them back. They got to create turnovers.
They got to be, proactive and not reactive to the situation. Like, go out there 0-0. This is my team, and I'm going into a hard place to win. But honestly, the Packers, besides Rodgers and some of their guys on the receiving, like, who are they as an identity as well? I don't think they're the best team in the NFL right now. The Lions was keeping up with them, and they beat the Lions. They went toe for toe with 49ers, and the Saints beat them in the first week. And for me, Rodgers, he did seem checked out like throughout the whole offseason about, where am I going to go, Steelers or Denver, another team? And the Saints got them on their day. So I don't think it's the same old Packers with their defense. It seems like this is a game that, honestly, out of the 4 games, this might be okay, I'll ask you this question. Would this be the easiest game out of the 4 games, this team?
Yeah, probably. And it's interesting you say that. And I'm going to say the wider thing to think about out of this, or the macro view on it, is this goes back to that, yes, the Steelers have the hardest schedule by strength of schedule, but you don't know what the schedule actually is in terms of difficulty until you actually see the teams play that year. People can have injuries, people can just be in poor form, what have you. But I would argue that, yeah, it is. And the funny thing is, and you do see this with good teams from time to time, sometimes they are better away than they are from home. They get more motivated. They, the schedule works better for them. They're not as casual about it. They're not in their own environment. They're mentally more attuned. And we saw that with the Bills game. We've had the couple of games at home. Could they go to Lambeau and win it in Lambeau? And suddenly the thing resets. The other thing is that Raiders team are a good team. Right? If they beat the Chargers this week, and the Chargers are a very good team, even if they lose against the Chargers, I think it'll be closer than what people think. That Raiders team is a good team, or they're at least in hot form, right? They beat the Ravens as well, right? And then you look at the Bengals, and I said it all offseason. Remember, I said we will get beaten. The Bengals will beat us at home because they want it more, right? And they wanted that game more. And you heard it from people like Mike Hilton, who I thought borderlined on disrespectful and some of the things that he was saying. But they wanted it more. They had young guys that wanted to prove themselves. And I can say that too, because they came back from 14-0 down this week against Jacksonville. They want it. They want to prove that they're not the cellar dwellers of the AFC North and the AFC.
That's what I said. I think they're an angry side. I think, the Jags had that game, and they did come back with Joe Burrow, young quarterback, Jamar Chase, some of those fellas, Tyler Boyd. The offensive line's playing pretty good. Their running game's pretty good. Their defense is playing really well. They're not the Bengals that lose all the time. I hope they are, but they're playing angry, and they're starting to form their identity being 3-1. So I'm not saying they're going to win the North, but I'm saying at least they're forming an identity where the Steelers aren't. We have no real identity to shed.
So on the Packers side of things, Mark, what do the Steelers need to shut down from the Packers? Like, where do you think the Packers could, get the advantage over the Steelers this week?
You said it before, and I don't know the guy's name, but the tight end, is it Tunyon? Is it he, the Green Bay Packer tight end? Or am I haven't got my depth chart up here. But the tight ends in general, I think there's one or two blokes that Aaron Rodgers seems to go to a lot. And he's kind of the sneaky guy that goes out of the backfield, and you don't think, the ball might go to Adams, but then it ends up going to a tight end for a screen, and he gets 30, 40 yards. Tonyan, he's the guy.
And you've got some Brown who's pretty big as well. Like he can show up too.
Is he the other tight end? There's two.
No, he's a wide receiver, and so is Alan Lazard, but they're almost like Chase Claypool size, right?
Okay, yeah, I think there's some receivers here that aren't, in the NFL media as like the best of the best, but Aaron Rodgers is using him like pretty good, like stout. Like the Tunyon guy, I think he's got a few touchdowns. Or in the Lions game I saw, he was just lighting him up.
Yeah,
he was their fourth receiver, and he just was winning the battles 1-on-1 against the linebacker. So I think if we do lose this game, it's they might take care of Adams, take care of Jones if he does play, or the other receivers. But I think it's going to allow their tight ends to get over the top of us, and Rodgers will find him. And if he wins that battle against Bush or Schobert or whoever's covering the tight ends, we're in a bit of trouble. And then how does Big Ben respond with the offense? Can we go score for score? At this moment, we can't go score for score.
Mate, we can't go score for score with anyone. Sorry, we can't. I don't mean to be negative about that, but we can't. Pick a team in the league that we can go to score with.
I just had to say it. Like, it's just
no. I know. I'm not having a crack at you, mate. I mean, there's no one we're going to score with. If there was relegation right now, we'd be relegated.
We go into the CFL, down one ladder.
We could probably go score to score with whichever Canadian football team Landry Jones is playing for.
Would he score? Why are we talking about CFL?
I don't know. There's some weird names in that CFL, man. There's some weird names.
Who's your guy? Or the Bearcats? Or the Wild Bearcats? Whatever it is.
I don't know. There's some Canadian. I don't know. While we're looking this up, though, what we did want to say is, if there's any questions, get them ready, because Mark and I are going to do our bold predictions, our punts of the week. As like to say in Australia, a punt's a gamble.
I know what it is.
Get your questions ready. But Mark, what's your punt of the week?
Oh, okay. My punt of the week this week is Cody White, because he's playing, right?
Yeah, he's been moved up.
I did read that correctly. Cody White will get 45 yards and 1 TD. 45 yards plus and 1 TD. He played well last week. He
45 yards off one pass, or like multiple?
No, like 45 yards in total, because he's the guy you don't think you think he won't get yards, right? He's only the fourth, fifth guy. But I think he'll play in this game a little bit, because he did play last week when Claypool went out, or one of the receivers went out. And he got 2 receptions, I believe, and almost a first down. But he got some separation. I did see there was 2 routes where he got separation from the cornerback. Maybe Ben goes to him, and I think he'll get 45 yards plus, which I think is, 50-50 and 1 TD. So that's my punt of the week. What's yours?
It's 50-50, but it's 45. Sorry, crack me up there. Yeah, that Canadian one, just because we are, being a bit free-flowing for this podcast, is the Canadian Rough Riders. That's bad.
What's the other one? The Tiger Cats, isn't it? Is there one?
Tiger Cats, the Stampeders,
what are ya?
The Blue Bombers, the Argonauts. I mean, come on, man. What is that?
Behind
Michael Beck will have to give us some background on this. Don't they have an extra player or a different size field or something? I don't know.
And anyone can move. So like all the offense can move at any time before the snap. There's only 3 downs. The Tiger Cats, who are you cheering for? A tiger or a cat? Like, I don't know who you are.
Isn't a tiger a big cat? Shouldn't they just call them the Tiger Big Cats?
I don't know. I tried to follow it. It's just, I can't do it.
How can you follow that stuff?
I don't know.
My punt of the week this week is Devin Bush forced fumble.
Yes.
And then
That
there'll
needs to happen.
And the Steelers will recover it. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say it's a scoop and score, but that's what I would say. And I'll also say Cam Hayward, a forced fumble through Rodgers. I'm going to go double forced fumble here. Double trouble.
So Devin Bush, does he force fumble from a running back, a receiver, or
whatever? It's just happening in the middle. It's just happening, I think, in the middle of the field. I think it's happening through the passing game. He's just going to smack the lights out of the receiver.
I got one for you. What about if Cam Hayward force fumbles recoveries and then Devin Bush steals it from Cam Hayward? Does that count as a fumble?
That's just
in the same play. That can happen.
No, it can't.
Mate, we talked about CFL. I had to go out on a stretch.
I know, but Deontay is like a little cannonball to Cam Hayward, who's like, I don't know, he's not going to work. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get in. We've got a super chat before we go to some live Q&A. Ben's making on purpose, making mistakes on purpose. I'm not sure. Jonathan Dwyer called him out, and so did AB. He's a spoiled kid who responds adverse when he doesn't get his way. Okay.
Yeah, you know what though? Okay, it's easy to call somebody out once you're not on the team.
Yeah.
Like I did a rant the other day with my Steel Nation Australia. I was talking about Ryan Clark saying that the Steelers are a total failure of an organization. They've lost 2 games. It's really easy to tell someone who they are when you're not in the team anymore. It takes guts to do it when you're inside the team. So, those blokes, AB and that. AB, I loved him as a Steeler, but he went crazy and now he's not in our lives anymore, So, and the other guy, Dwyer, I think was a running back. It's easy to call someone out when you're not in the team. Let's just say that.
Okay. But I don't want to ever hear anything from AB again. Okay. I'm going to go on a rant here and, people can go, you're just some dumb Aussie in Australia, right? I don't want to hear anything from AB again. AB went on and 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 on. Actually, pause. Newsflash. This is like probably a nut rant that like no one's ever heard before, right? My family have to hear this crap all the time, right? I don't want to hear from AB again. Don't want to hear it. We hear from him. He went on and on and on, as I just said before. Ridiculous. You went on about getting the ball all the time. You had a tantrum when you didn't get the ball all the time. Then you're on a team where you don't get the ball all the time and you get a Super Bowl and you sit there and go on about how lovely Brady is and how good the Bucks are and everything wrong with the Steelers. Well, if you brought the same attitude to the Steelers, you'd still be in the team. We would have won Super Bowls potentially, or at least been competing from them, and you'd still be here creating a legacy. Instead, you're going down as one of the crazies in the league. And I agree that you had that bad hit from Burfict. But I don't want to hear from AB. He's the biggest hypocrite known to man. I don't want to hear from Martavius Bryant. You forced your way out of Pittsburgh. Like, I don't want to hear it from them. You haven't done anything. You're not Hyde's Ward. You don't have a Super Bowl. You haven't got us there. Even though you had that great relationship with Ben. AB wouldn't have had half the money that he's got without Big Ben. He's got to remember he was a 6th-round draft pick. Have some respect to the franchise that invested in you. It was the same thing a little bit to a degree that it goes back to how I was feeling a bit with James Harrison last week. Without the Steelers, these players wouldn't be anything. Like, get back in your box and get on with life. You've got money for life. You're a known entity. You got the chance to play in the National Football League. You got to play the game that you're meant to love. I don't want to hear it anymore. And as for guys like Ryan Clark and the rest of them, I don't see you volunteering to be on the coaching staff until you sit there and say, I applied, they didn't accept me, and then you're giving your opinion. I don't care. Like, what are you doing to make a difference? Are you mentoring Terrell Edmonds? Are you mentoring James Pierre? What are you doing about it? And that's what I find really frustrating.
It's a hot take. Like, Ryan Clark came out and said that organizational failure. That's just dead set wrong. Two losses and you go down that route, and there's no respect for your former team. I agree with you, AB, but I disagree with Harrison. I think Harrison.
I'm not trying to have a dig at Harrison specifically. I'm just saying, like, I think that's one of the things I found hard is there's a lot of criticism for the franchise. But you know what helped turn me this week? Bad's interview with Justin Harrison, right?
Exactly.
So if you missed it, this week, Brian Anthony Davis, the big bad, the podcast producer, got to interview Justin Harrison, and he was actually saying positive and constructive things about the team, and that shifted me. And if you missed it, go back and listen to it.
He's just saying the Steelers don't count him out just yet. I think he's got a bit of heart and still a bit of legacy with that Steelers franchise, even though he's the one that went to the Bengals for a year and the Patriots, and he still had the Steel heart. Whereas Ryan Clark and the AB guys with their comments or Clark's comments is like, you can't, what are you saying? I know it's because it's a hot take and it gets us fired up. And then, our mate Dan Orlovsky that has won 2 games in the NFL starts speaking about how Ben can't do it anymore. Some of these guys, you are better off, and I'm so thankful we have a crew, a guy, everyone in the live chat listening to our takes, because some of these guys in the NFL media, like they were nothing in the NFL. Dan Orlovsky, never listened to him. Don't listen to the guy. He played for the Lions, and he's like 5-12 or something starting, and he's giving us like repetitions or ideas on who's going to be the best quarterback. Don't listen to those guys. I'm done with them. I'm so done.
I also and he's Mr. 3rd and 5th or Mr. Gummy Richards. I don't. Why are we paying attention to someone that's throwing like peanut? And I can say it. It's a part of the male body. Penis-shaped friggin' lollies at his baby mama. The foul things he said. The bloke shouldn't even be allowed in the NFL for some of the stuff that he's. I have no time for that. AB.
This is what happens, Matty, when we wait all week to get all the information in and we start to let loose in the hour. But it's true. Like these players, they won't be in our Steeler culture. Like I do like what AB did, one of the greatest receivers, but he's no longer in our law or our culture anymore. We have the guys like Hines Ward, the Mean Joe Green, those guys that the Steeler guys, Troy Palamu, the guys that we respect, and on the football field and off the football field.
The last thing I'll say is you can enjoy Michael Jackson's music, right? Does anyone miss him? No, they don't. Did anyone want to hear about anything he said for the 30 years before he died? No, they didn't. That's AB. Like what we did in the field, never want to hear from him again. See you later, alligator. Done.
Did you ever try the moonwalk? That's the next question.
I have. We got forced when I was in grade 7. We did this hip-hop class. I was okay at it, but I wasn't like... Yeah. I don't think I'll be doing it again.
I tried it with you put your socks on, you go into a slippery floor and you can do it, but I can't do it with shoes on. It's just too hard. How do you get that mechanicalness, But no, well said, Matty. You're exactly right. Like the AB stuff and the rant you just had, it was just, I can't wait to listen back to it.
Yeah, hopefully it's not too bad. I do enjoy a rant. But look, we don't have any questions from the live chat this week. I think my rants probably put people back into their shells. But Mark, is there anything else you wanted to cover off on the show this week before we call it a show? It's gone so quick. It always goes so quick.
Just want to say one thing. I'm not saying anyone's a fair weather fan. I'm just saying don't give up, because the reason that I love this team and why I follow is, I'll put it this way, and how we are struggling. I don't wait 8 months to.
I think we've got an issue there on Mark's side of the ball, which is at a funny time, or I'm talking into space, but my internet connection looks pretty good at the moment. But I think Mark said he doesn't wait. Or you're back. You're back. Happened? You froze. It was very funny. You literally said, "I don't wait all," and then you froze.
I think my net just dropped out for a little bit. All I'm saying is I don't wait, right? So, like, as a fair weather fan, I'm jumping off the boat right now. I don't wait 9 months to then say, I'm going to watch 3 games and go, oh, we suck. We're terrible. I'm not watching this. Get rid of Ben. Get rid of Tomlin. No, we still have 14 games to go. Sorry about that.
For those on the audio side, I've just brought up a live chat from Mule Skinner who says he froze like Jukes, and that's it.
Fair enough.
Portner asks, Ben is the 32nd ranked from a quarterback rating perspective. Our rush offense is 32nd in the league. Our O-line was ranked 29th by PFF before the season. My question is, are we rated too highly? We can rate it more highly than the last one.
We can only get better from there. We can only get better.
That's it. And that's the thing. You look at this defense, right? Sorry, Ryan's cracked me up as well and throwing me off. He said Mark could just be a very long dramatic pause. Yeah, you have this cool feature now on StreamYard where you can just, make it look like you froze. But what I wanted to say was Sorry about the motorbike in the background for me, but you look at this team and it can't get much worse, right? We've had a lot of guys off injured with defense the last few weeks, and that's the thing. It wasn't good against the Bengals, but Big Ben hopefully has watched that tape of that poor interception. We've got defensive guys back that can put the pressure on, and look for them to step up against the Packers this week and put themselves back on the map, right? And at the end of the day, if we win 2 away games, we've lost the 2 home ones, it should be easy to win at home. That's something to look forward to, later on in the season as well, if we can keep up that strength when we play away. And most people thought we were going to go 4-2, through the first 6 games. Okay, we beat the Bills. That was one of the ones we were going to drop, right? We were meant to get over the Raiders. We're definitely meant to get over the Bengals, right? We dropped those 2 games. Get over the Packers this week.
Mm-hmm.
We're 2-2. There's 2 more games to come. And I said this after week 1, because after it didn't look good, even though we got away with the win. It was get to the bye week, refresh, get guys back, see where you're in the mix, right? I loved it. You still can get 10 wins, right? If you get 10 wins, I think you're in the playoffs. And then once you're in the playoffs, it's anyone's game. It's anyone's game. But look,
Exactly.
To close it out, I think we're going to finish it up with Shields' question. And he says, here's a question. What would make you hopeful for this team coming off this Green Bay game aside from a dominant win? Oh, Big Ben having time on 4 or more plays to actually throw the football. Like he needs plus 3.5 seconds on. Actually, yeah, he needs 3.5 seconds on 10 plays, whether he makes the throw or not.
For me to be hopeful, a win would be great. But if we lose by 3 points, 7 points from a last-minute touchdown, and we're in this game the whole game, if we have a great, completion rate, where first downs are good, not turning the ball over. If the Packers beat us and we don't beat ourselves, then I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
It's got to be better than last week.
That was atrocious. I do want to say, to finally close out the show, this is the absolute last thing I want to say, is last week we talked about the time of possession that the Steelers had, and it wasn't very good. And then they had the ball for 35 minutes and they didn't do anything with it.
77 plays, and we still did nothing. So what do you do?
But with that, that's this week's episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. I'm Matt Peverell, as always, joined by my co-host Marky D, Mark Davison. Mark, close it out.
Go Steelers!